Okay. Well, yeah, so thank you everyone for joining. As a reminder, we are recording this session. This is our virtual outreach meeting, or one of our virtual outreach meetings for the Alexander Mitchell schoolyard redevelopment process. And what we wanted to do is provide some quick introductions to some of the planning partners, also to watch a quick video on what we can expect from the schoolyard redevelopment process, and then pause for some questions. We also want to hear from, just kind of reiterate some of the initial ideas and interests from the Mitchell team on why you guys are interested in going through this process. I think it would just be helpful just to kind of reiterate. There's a lot of things on everyone's minds, and it would just be helpful just to kind of refocus where, why we're all interested in moving this forward. And then we did update the conceptual plan, and that's really exciting. Last month, the school green team, we all got together. We talked about some great feedback of what the first draft is. Today is the second draft, and we're going to be following a similar format in the Idea Flip program. But then we also have other opportunities to provide feedback to the current draft plan as well. And then next time, what we'll be doing next month is we'll be taking the edits from today and revising that for a similar session next month. Okay, so Jose, can you help us out by trying to encapsulate that in Spanish for us, please?
Buenas tardes a todos los padres que están con nosotros ahora. Para empezar, vamos a hacer unas introducciones a las parejas y grupos que están en colaboración con nosotros en este proyecto. También dar un poco de información de nuestra organización de Reflow y también explicar más o menos el proceso que se toma de los diferentes proyectos que toman las escuelas. También en este momento vamos a presentar diferentes ejemplos de diferentes cosas que se pueden instalar. Y luego también vamos a tomar un poco de tiempo para poder agarrar comentarios sobre por qué tiene interés y por qué más o menos está feliz en agarrar este proyecto. Luego vamos a tomar un tiempo para tomar preguntas sobre cualquier cosa que tenga. Luego vamos a poder revisar el plan. Vamos a tener un momento para revisar antes lo que pasó, se construyó la primera vez, y luego ahorita vamos a poder revisar la segunda versión. Y luego también al final tener otra oportunidad para poder colectar sus comentarios y darle más información sobre eso.
Thank you. Okay, so and thank you, Lisa. She dropped the agenda in the chat window as well. Okay, so we're going to jump into this. Just a very quick introduction to the nonprofit Reflow. My name is Justin Haggerty. I'm the executive director. Reflow works on community-based water projects, and we have several different program areas, but our program area today, most relevant to today's conversation, is the Green and Healthy Schools program. And we work very closely with the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District and Milwaukee Public Schools and several other partners to redevelop schoolyards with community design solutions, and we'll introduce them in a moment as well. Jose, you're muted.
Nuestra organización es una organización sin fines de lucro que más o menos es tratando de dar diferentes procesos de mantenimiento más sobre aguas pluviales, y luego también ahorita para poder hacer relaciones fuertes con diferentes grupos, comunidades, y ahorita la colaboración que estamos haciendo más es con las escuelas de Milwaukee públicas y con otros grupos también que se enfocan en más o menos el mismo trabajo sobre el agua.
Is Lisa Sasso from the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District on the call? I know she's, this one maybe. If not, no worries. So I'm going to introduce the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewage District. So MMSD is sponsoring the conceptual planning process for Mitchell. And they are the utility in the Milwaukee area that is responsible for managing our stormwater and flood management. And they have a special initiative to support schools in particular because of the opportunities around green infrastructure, which really means managing stormwater where it falls through different types of native landscaping and green roofs and bioswales. And here are a couple different visual examples of that. But the MMSD is partnering with schools and Reflow to be able to support this work that we're talking about going forward. And we'll go back. Sorry, Jose.
El Distrito Metropolitano de Alcantarillado.
Toma, Joshua.
The Milwaukee es una agencia del gobierno regional que realmente ahorita está tratando de dar diferentes formas para poder mantener estos problemas del agua que tenemos aquí en esta ciudad. Sí ayudan mucha gente y realmente sí están tratando de proteger no solamente la salud pública de las comunidades, pero también la salud del medio ambiente. Y lo que mira ahorita son diferentes ejemplos, infraestructura verde, como le dicen, que está tomando soluciones verdes para poder mantener ese volumen, gran volumen de agua. Y aquí tenemos unos ejemplos de drenajes sostenibles, luego también jardines de lluvia y barriles de lluvia también.
And then this slide just talks about the Green Schools Consortium of Milwaukee. And we just wanted to kind of call out that Mitchell is part of a cohort of schools that are going through this redevelopment process. And there is this larger network of about 1,000 or so individuals that are very supportive of green and healthy schools in the Milwaukee area.
It didn't do it for me either.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Esta es otra organización, esta organización de Escuelas Verdes es una gran organización que estamos nosotros parte, que realmente se ayuda mucho para poder hacer estos proyectos reales en las diferentes escuelas y más importante para dar diferentes espacios verdes para los estudiantes.
Okay, so introduction to the GSCM. Big picture here, what we're talking about is removing asphalt and doing something bigger and better at schoolyards. In particular, connecting the dots with stormwater management, and then also engaging with students and parents and adults to be able to connect arts and the curriculum, and doing so in a way that is collaborative and well connected with the community.
En parte con este mismo grupo, siempre estamos tratando de hacer conexiones con el grupo de estudiantes, los maestros, tratando de involucrar a todas las familias también para que puedan disfrutar los diferentes ejemplos de verdes que se van a poder instalar en la escuela. Y luego, aparte de eso, también qué otros materiales podemos darles para que puedan seguir usando este espacio lo que más puedan.
Okay, so this graphic communicates also that Mitchell is in the 5th cohort of schoolyard redevelopment projects. There are, that means there are 5 years of this process. Each year we accept 5 new schools into this schoolyard redevelopment process. And what that would mean is construction. So what we're talking about over the course of 2023 is conceptual planning. Next year we'll be in the fundraising phase, and then in 2025, construction is intended for the schoolyard that we're talking about later as we go through this session.
Esta es una imagen sobre el proceso más o menos que toma cada escuela, empezando con el primer año, tratando de agarrar una planificación conceptual. Y la escuela Mecho es parte de nuestro 5º grupo de escuelas y más o menos después de tomar un tiempo de recaudación de fondos y luego también detalles sobre el diseño, la construcción más o menos sería el 2025 de para Mecho.
And Travis, you had a really great point in the chat there. If there are any community members that are attending the session, it would be really great if you wouldn't mind doing what Travis just did in the chat window where he identified his name, and then the organization that he's with. That would be really great if everyone wouldn't mind spending a couple minutes just typing that into the chat for those that are community members attending this session or partners. Okay, so this slide helps to communicate some of the things that we're talking about with the schoolyard redevelopment projects. We really want to help work with Mitchell, help amplify what's going really well at Mitchell, help to redevelop your schoolyard. We are talking about actually building these projects. This isn't pie in the sky. We really want to make sure that these are feasible things that we can actually accomplish in the next 3 years. And we do want to have meaningful engagement with your staff and students and parents. And so we're very open to the idea of what that could look like. And so we are looking to the team here to see how we might be able to support.
Aquí tenemos más o menos unos ejemplos de actividades en donde más se pueden involucrar los maestros, las familias o realmente la comunidad alrededor de la escuela, porque sí queremos que tengan esa involucración para que puedan más o menos ser feliz con el espacio también y para decir la historia que tomó la escuela, porque los proyectos que se instalan en diferentes escuelas sí son importantes y realmente queremos tratar de enseñar esa evidencia más o menos con otros grupos para que puedan seguir nuestros pasos también.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to watch a quick video that helps to communicate the overall schoolyard redevelopment process. I'm going to take this back over.
Many Milwaukee area schoolyards are in poor condition and offer little, if any, green space. Schoolyards were originally paved to reduce lawn maintenance costs, but decades of inertia have left deteriorating infrastructure that is costly to repair and impairs the environmental health of our city and the social emotional health of our children. The redevelopment process begins with schools applying to receive conceptual planning support provided by REFLO and the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District. Each year, 5 schools are awarded the planning grant based on their need and enthusiasm for a greener, healthier schoolyard. The year-long planning process consists of monthly green team meetings that culminate in the development of a conceptual plan document that is well supported by the school community, administration, and project partners. Schools spent over a year fundraising with support from the school district, project partners, and community. School districts hire engineering consultants to create the necessary detailed designs before construction can begin in the summer of the 3rd year of the process.
I am not going to litter because water carries trash down hills into the river or lake. I'm going to remind my family that our choices affect more than just ourselves. Everything is connected.
These projects don't only help our schools receive a new and better playground, they're also helping the environment and making a positive change in our community.
An increasing body of research underscores that students' access to green schoolyards can result in better academic outcomes, increased engagement and enthusiasm, improved social emotional skills, and decreased childhood obesity. Redeveloped schoolyards also offer many other benefits, including improved stormwater management, urban biodiversity, community engagement, and meaningful STEAM curricular connections. For more information, visit reflowh2o.com.
Great. So that's just a quick summary of the schoolyard redevelopment process and what we can expect. This slide that I'm going to show next is to help communicate where we are in the overall process with Mitchell. We're at the very beginning of the conceptual planning phase. So here we are in April. We're going to be in this conceptual planning phase all the way through the end of this calendar year. And then fundraising again all the way through 2022, and then followed up with construction the following year. So we're about to jump into the updates, the conceptual plan. I do want to reiterate that we're in the beginning process here, and there's many opportunities to provide feedback if you see something or if you have other ideas, please don't hesitate to reach out and communicate what could be a good opportunity to improve upon the plan for Mitchell's schoolyard.
Aquí tenemos otra imagen, más o menos enseñando otra vez el proceso, y el video que acabaron de ver enseñó ese proceso también desde el principio. La flecha amarilla que mira en la imagen ahorita está indicando en este proceso donde está la escuela Mitchell. Ahorita todavía estamos en el principio de esta fase, y el primer año se va a acabar a fines de diciembre. Y después vamos a seguir a paso, y aquí indicado por los diferentes colores de las diferentes fases del proceso.
So if we could just pause. So Ms. Malakara, if you wouldn't mind just unmuting and providing a couple of thoughts about why Mitchell started down this process and what you may be excited about with this redevelopment process.
Sure. I'll say a few things, and then I don't know if Melissa Ricky is our interventionist here, and she was the one that brought this to my attention. So I feel, and then she helped me with the proposal, the presentation that helped us get this opportunity. So she might want to add some info too. But I would say, just from my perspective as a principal, being at Mitchell, this is my 8th year here, and Mitchell, our children need space. They need space to play. We have children that love to play outside. We have a community. We're right in the center of the Muskego Way Neighborhood Association, and which I think is great. We've been a part of that organization, but the community uses not just our children that go to our school, that live in our community, and they need space for playing and for healthy living, etc. But also the Muskego Way, the participants of our community also use our basketball courts, our playground space, our tot lot. So I know that our community would benefit from this also. And Melissa created some great slides when we presented our proposal of just how we have a lack of green space, parks, safe places for people to, for our students, our families to exercise and interact in this area. So Melissa, did you want to speak to any of the data that you gathered?
Sure, I don't have it in front of me here, but I think you spoke to a lot of the really important points when we were preparing this. It's not unusual at our school, and our staff knows, to have community members already on the playground before school gets out. Our playground, the back playground is a well-used space, the front as well. But there's such a need for our community to have such a nice green space. We did make a map, and we mapped, the office gave me a list of all the kids' addresses, and we mapped out where all of our kids live. And we know that our school is a community school, that most of our children walk to school. And when you map everybody's address around our school, and then when you take a look at where all of the parks are and green spaces, the nearest green spaces to us are very small. They're postage stamp size until you get to Mitchell Park area. And then it gets quite large, but we're asking kids and families then to cross several busy streets. And so we need a place for our families, our community, to really enjoy a space that's safe, that's welcoming, that gives them a chance to get into some of those STEAM activities even after school. I'm pulling up our presentation here. Also, something like 70% of our actual space on our lot, you guys know, is concrete. Where our garden currently is, you guys also know it's on the northwest side of our building. It doesn't get any sun. And so I'm really excited for our kids and our community to have a space that really feels homey and feels well loved. And I don't know, it's just a fun place to play.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, so I think that that's great. And that can be a good transition now to take a look at the updated conceptual plan, the draft. But before we get in that, I just want to open it up if there are any thoughts or questions that are out there before we look at the updated conceptual plan, maybe on the process and where we're going.
Ahorita en unos momentos vamos a tomar el tiempo para revisar la segunda versión del plan, pero ahorita ¿hay alguna persona que tiene alguna pregunta antes de empezar eso?
Okay, that's great. We can we'll keep moving. And so I'm going to show this next slide communicates a handful of ways that we can provide feedback. You guys all can provide feedback to the conceptual plan, and we're going to come back to this. So I'm just going to start here on this idea flip, and I'm going to copy this into the chat window. So I know we all did this last time too, and please feel free to take a look. I'm going to walk us through the updated board, and I'm going to take a couple pauses here and there so Jose can chime in and translate as well. But here's the board that we're starting with. And last month, we took a look at the ideas that you all had. A lot of people provided some really great thumbs up, and yes, and kind of doubling down, tripling down on some of the ideas that you all had, which is really great. We also looked at some of the activities that you would like to do on the school grounds, and we got some good feedback on that as well. And I'll pause there, Jose, maybe if you can jump in on that.
Si pudieron accesar la página por el enlace que pusimos en el chat. Ahorita lo que pueden ver arriba, por empezar, es más o menos una lista de las diferentes ideas que recibimos de todas las personas que estuvieron ahí. Y luego también al lado de esa lista, la lista a la mano derecha, es una lista sobre las diferentes actividades que se pueden hacer en el espacio, en el nuevo espacio después de instalar todo. Y luego también, luego vamos a poder más o menos ahorita empezar a ver las diferencias del primer plan que hicimos y luego la segunda versión que tenemos ahora.
Thank you. So I think I just dropped the wrong link in there. So please check out the link I just recently dropped in the chat window. Hopefully that takes us there. Any thumbs up to let us know that you're able to get there? Hopefully that worked out. Okay. All right, so as people are taking a look at that link, the first draft, this one may look familiar. This is what we all looked at last month. And we provided some precedent images and lots of great feedback. And so this go around, the next one down is the second draft. So this is the one, same plan. Lisa, would you mind finding the right link and putting that in the chat, please? Well, the second draft is what we're going to take a look at today. And Kelly from CDS, would you mind walking us through the updates to the conceptual plan?
Yeah, sure. The main thing I wanted to focus on for this second draft was to add a more diverse array of different activities that could take place in the schoolyard and kind of separate those out a bit more. So one of the main features, of course, is the new soccer field, which would also have stormwater storage underneath. And for that, I had that in the first draft, but here I moved it up north more and closed off that the existing entrance to the schoolyard that's there. So close that off with fencing so that that soccer field is more protected and you don't have to worry about balls rolling out into the street and all that. We still have 2 outdoor classrooms, but I moved the raised garden beds from where they currently are, since that's on like the northeast side of the northwest side of the building, so they don't get a lot of sunlight. So I wanted to move that somewhere where they would get a lot more sun exposure and be closer to the water source that I know a lot of teachers told me were in that general area. Let's see, what else did I add? I also added an outdoor classroom up at the north entrance that would also be a bioswale, so could collect overflow water from rains, but when there's not water there, there would be rocks lining the perimeter of it, so you can sit there, have a class there. There's also some logs and stumps off to the left under the trees for another potential classroom or just quiet reading space. Going back to the main part of the yard, I've added Gaga ball, which was something that a lot of people were requesting, as well as some agility paths that kind of wind through this set of trees that have like round benches around them. So there's a lot more opportunity, I think, now for like physical play. Yeah. Oh, and yeah, I could talk about that. The porous pavement, yeah, because we had talked about maybe having a bioswale there, but we didn't want to give up any of the parking spaces. So instead, we're thinking about porous pavement so that you still can park there. But I know that area floods, so that would help alleviate that.
Awesome. So, and this picture shows what those kind of tree planters would be. Those 3 that are shown in that drawing. You can see how it kind of creates shade and benches. And the intent is to show that they're pretty widely spaced so that you can have different activities throughout there. And then what Kelly just mentioned was the porous pavement in the parking lot as opposed to a bioswale. So that's something that you can still drive on like regular asphalt, but it allows stormwater to soak into the ground and manage stormwater where it falls. Now, Jose, would you just hit the big ones really quick on some of the major features like soccer, outdoor classroom?
Algunos cambios que pasaron es, por empezar, la posición del campo de fútbol. Ese lo movieron un poco más para el norte y luego también el diseño que cambiaron es para poder encerrar todo. Primero para la seguridad de los niños que están en esa área y luego también para que no se vayan rodando las pelotas en la calle o ahí alrededor. Otra cosa son las posiciones de las diferentes alas que están al aire libre. Uno que añadieron fue el área que está al norte del mapa. Ese es un nuevo espacio que crearon, si ven la diferencia de la primera versión del mapa y el segundo. Y luego también viendo más o menos diferentes cosas instalando sobre el espacio en el estacionamiento en la parte norte de ahí, para que puedan plantar ahí. Y luego también haciendo más para poder crear diferentes actividades o más espacio para diferentes actividades para poder moverse más. Es la mayor idea para la segunda versión de este plan.
And then we also we want to make sure that we're talking about improving the tot lot as well to make sure that that gets improved. And then we're also showing some pavement markings in the front of the schoolyard as well. Okay. So thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Jose. So same way that we're going to provide feedback as last month is we would like everyone to respond to these 3 prompts. What do we like about this current draft plan? What do we think are opportunities for improvement? And are there any questions? And so there's been some changes since the last time we all looked at this. And so this is kind of an iterative process, and we'd like to get your check-in on this and where we are and how it can be improved. What do we like? And then also what are any questions that are outlined?
Igual como el proceso del mes pasado, vamos a tener el primer espacio para decir qué les gusta de esta versión del plan. El segundo espacio es para que puedan escribir qué se puede mejorar. Y luego el espacio final es para preguntas sobre esta versión o a lo mejor por otra cosa que tenga.
So I'm just going to model just so that I know this is a different program. So Idea Flip, on the far right-hand side, there are Post-it notes. You can go ahead and choose any color that you'd like, and you just click it and drag it, and you can say, you know, I would like to see XYZ activity on the XYZ activity. And there's the comment. And so we can see that under opportunities for improvement. If you like certain things, same deal, just kind of drag and drop it into that area of the board. And then I do just want to say, we can also see who that created that note. So if there's any follow-up that needs to be done, we can certainly follow up with that individual as well. So please take a moment to start to populate that. We will leave this board open as well for the, Lisa, can you remind me how long we were going to leave this board open for?
Through April 30th.
April 30th. So next 10 days, this will be available. So if anyone isn't able to attend this session, we'll have the recording of this session that can be shared, and the board will be open for the next 10 days as well. So maybe while people are filling in some comments on that, we also want to talk about some other ways we can appreciate that they're not, it may be easier to provide comments through different means. So Lisa, would you mind talking us through the Google Forms option for feedback as well?
Yes, and then to address the chat, you may have to sign in with a Gmail account to add your ideas to the idea flipboard. So try that. I hope that works for you. The Google form is just, it's a different way to provide feedback if someone would prefer a survey rather than using the idea flipboard. So this has English and Spanish prompts throughout, and it's looking at the main drawing that Kelly put together, and then asking for some feedback on the types of things that you really like about the plan, some suggestions and questions as well. So you can go to the link and it'll take you to the main site plan, as well as a perspective drawing that Kelly put together that we can take a peek at. And then it just asks some questions about what you're most excited to see on the school grounds, that's included in the plan right now. I really do apologize. I don't know why the idea flip's not working. It's the same link as last time. So I will try and drop it one more time, okay? And then if Google Form or Idea Flip are not your thing, you can always email me directly, and then I can capture all of that feedback too and make sure it gets included in the next round of designs.
So it's just a different way to provide comments and feedback is through the Google form. And hopefully there aren't as many troubles with that one, but it's in English and in Spanish. Cool. Other ways to provide feedback. We're recording this open house. That can be shared, and then there are also links to take a look at the draft plans as well. And we're really hoping that we can possibly do an in-person meeting in fall, but that has to be determined. Before we, well, not open for me either. So let's take a look at that idea flip. Okay, I see a handful of people that got into it. That's interesting. Contribute. We'll keep looking on that one.
Yeah, and just
a limit of how many people can be in at a time. So like I put my sticky note in there and then I left so that other people can get in. Sometimes that might be an issue.
Okay, well, while that's taking a moment, Kelly, would you mind talking us through this perspective drawing that you created?
Sure. So this is taken from what would be, I guess, then the main entrance to this side of the schoolyard. So to the left would be the raised garden beds that are being moved to a sunnier spot closer to water. And then across from that is the musical instruments, the outdoor musical instruments. And you can see kind of behind that would be one of the outdoor classrooms where there would be some sun shading, as well as like different logs and stumps for kids to sit on. And then to the right corner here, we see some of the agility paths and outdoor movement kind of pavement markings that have different activities associated with them. And in the distance, you can see the trees with the benches around them. And yeah, those are, and there's some additional benches along that kind of retaining wall towards the school. So yeah, I think that's all what we're seeing here.
Great. So any comments to this, please feel free to respond to those prompts too. If there are edits that we feel like we want to make with this, we will be creating 2 images like this, these kind of perspective images, and then a drone photo from the like an aerial photo that also shows a kind of a rendering of it. Kelly's going to be working hard to connect all the dots with some of these images. So feedback on what we're showing here would be helpful so that we can make sure that it's on target for what we would like to see at Mitchell. And then the idea Flipboard, just to respond to some of the comments in the chat, I'm just going to zoom out. So I'm kind of scrolling out here. So there's the first draft in the middle, and then if you go to the bottom, there's the second draft and the comments here on the right-hand side of that.
Justin, do you want to do a little open discussion and then we can capture some of those thoughts if we're still having some trouble getting in to add those notes?
Yeah, for sure. So does anyone want to respond to what we have, what we're showing here? Does anyone want to unmute themselves so we can kind of talk through any thoughts if Idea Flip is causing some issues with that?
I just have one comment. This is Mrs. Ricky. I like that you were able to preserve the parking lot, the parking space.
Yeah, right. That was a good feedback from last time, right? So we were previously talking about a bioswale there. So I think we heard from staff that making sure that all of those spaces was saved was important. So that's a good one. I'm seeing in the chat too. Please feel free to respond in the chat. That talking about the tot lot, we do have some photos. We can appreciate the status of the current tot lot, so making sure that gets improved is important. I am curious about the stations. That was part of the conversation that we had last time, was making sure that there are enough activities on this schoolyard as well. Does anyone want to kind of chime in on the kind of the level of activities that could be done on the schoolyard? Does it seem like we have enough? Are there more needed? Any thoughts on that one?
I thought it was a nice variety of activities for our students, and it included key activities that our students love, like soccer and basketball, but also included some other alternatives. So I liked them. If anybody else has feedback on that.
And pavement markings as well, if there's any other thoughts, if we like the world map, or if we want to change that to be a US map, or if we want to change it to the Muskego Way neighborhood, that could certainly be discussed too. There's options there. these planter beds that kind of hold trees, they help to create like seating spaces. They help to shade the asphalt. I think it would create like a really unique space, like right through there. And then if we get creative with the painted play activities throughout there, you could have different stations and activities that kind of wind through there. And I'm really excited to hear if anyone from the staff have any ideas about other activities, like how can we use these features to build out more activities that could be done on the school grounds. If we just kind of take another look at what that looks like down here, just for a strong visual of that. You know, here this picture is showing, you know, a tree and seating, which is great. You know, this could be expanded to have different art activities that are kind of planted in that planter area. There could be grasses or different types of plantings that could be done at kind of the base of this as well. It's kind of limited by how creative we want to get with that, but it is a unique feature that will help to kind of create more space in the schoolyard.
What do you love about it, Gloria?
What?
Get the mute.
Okay, I'm just going to take a look at some of the ideas here. I'd like to see alphabet hopscotch. There was one at AAL. Awesome. We can, I think there's totally space. I'm just going to zoom in that so we can all see that comment. I'd like to see alphabet hopscotch. Yeah, so we can certainly, I think there's room in the asphalt to do that. So that's something we can totally add. Could we do an agility path in the front instead of Foursquare? There's space mostly used by K3 and second. Any thoughts on Foursquare in the front of the schoolyard? Does anyone see that as, you know, Foursquare as something that's important, or do we want to just completely remove it from the front of the schoolyard?
I like the idea of Foursquare up there. I like the idea of something, again, usually the little kids are the ones up front using it, but I do want to say it would be nice to see some green space, kind of like, it doesn't need to cover up what you have as far as the Foursquare, but something that's more inviting as a walkway up to our entrance would be kind of helpful. Because right now we have a really nice path there, but it would be nice if it was like lined with some sort of green, maybe tall grasses or something. It could just be a separator between some more concrete space on the other side, like where the Foursquare is right now. But one thing that we lack in the front of our building by our entrance is like a really nice path that is both green as well as inviting and very, right now it's just a bunch of concrete as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So we've been talking, also in your cohort is Riley School, and they have an interest in like this kind of like grand entrance to their school, which is a really cool idea. And so one of the ideas that we're talking about is putting smaller scale planters that kind of ring the side of this as well. So I'm just going to kind of float in those here. So then you get benches. So like when families pick up, there's seating there for that. You can do some large trees, it's green. And then especially those art activities, you know, if you really want to play that up, like that could be kind of a seasonal art. I know we're concerned about vandalism and like, but that could be a really cool kind of like exhibit space if you want to make use of that way.
So for the front area, I think it definitely leaves more color and life, especially on that Foursquare area. The hard thing is that we may eventually return to parent pickup for some classes in the front of the building. So having some flat space or some area for parents to gather and be able to pick up kiddos. But then also when we think about our recess stations and areas for young ones, the littles can't really keep up with the ball for Foursquare. So we were having them do things like chalk, but if we could do like agility, something movement connected that would keep them within that space, but allow them to do some movement or physical activity in that front area, I think was what our team had talked about with some of the younger grades. So I don't know if they have ideas or input on that.
alphabet hopscotch in the front. I'm gonna kind of, while we're waiting for some feedback here, another layout could be to do kind of like another one of these circles, and then one of these planters, and then do activities around the perimeter of that. If we want to make sure we maintain more flat space in the front, that could be another way to have some green space. Could maybe do one over here as well, so that you have some symmetry there. That could be another solution too. Does that seem to better fit with what you're thinking? Happy compromise, maybe.
I think that would add to the walkway too, like add to some of that ambiance when you're walking up. I have a question too. I know you said signage, we would have like signage in areas in English, Spanish. Does this include any signage for the school, like entrance at all? Anything artistic related to our name at all?
That's a really cool idea. We've never had a school think about that. That's awesome.
We need help with that because we have also a lighted, well, like a sign that's electronic out, and it doesn't work right now, and it will cost a lot of money to get it replaced. So that's also something that definitely I think we'd be interested in.
Yeah, for sure.
Our front entrance doesn't say Mitchell on the front entrance.
Got you. Yeah. So do you have, you know what I can do for next time? I can share some photos of other schools that maybe have more decorative. I'm thinking of Kluge. They have some really cool pieces from Marina Lee that kind of hang up in the front. We can find some photos of those and we can share those ahead of next meeting if that would be helpful, so we can get some feedback on that.
That'd be awesome.
Cool. Okay. So I do want to kind of zoom in on Gagaball because I saw in the chat window about kickball. So yeah, kickball. So we've been able to fit in a lot of gross motor activities like basketball and soccer. If you know, kickball would take up a lot of space as well, and you know, another alternative to kickball has been Gagaball, and that's kind of a smaller footprint. I just want to zoom in on what Gagaball looks like so we can all get a better visual of what that is. It's a smaller footprint. We've heard from students thinking that it's like more inclusive because it's not quite as physical, I guess, as kickball, but it is really exciting. A lot of students really love kickball. Or I'm sorry, Gagaball. But yeah, if kickball has a strong, if that's like a really important thing, then we should talk about that, because that would most likely mean that we'd have to do some rearranging of things, or possibly, yeah, it would be important to know that if kickball is a strong driver. And I will say, some schools talk about like doing like kickball using the soccer field as well, using the four corners. It's not quite exactly the same dimensions, but that could be repurposed that way. Okay, these kids playing kickball in the world map in there, right? That would all be flat and asphalt. That's cool. You could kick that ball this way too. Yeah, so that Gagaball question, the question in the chat was how many people can play Gagaball? How many students? There are different sizes. There's kind of like a small, medium, and large size Gagaball pit. What we're showing is the larger one. And so sometimes the Phi-Ed classes will use those spaces, but we're talking, you know, maybe a dozen students at a time in each one of those Gagaball pits, and we're talking about 2 of them. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions? I see some more comments coming in here. Add Gagaball to the front for little ones. Does that sound Ms. Malakara, what are you thinking?
First of all, I've never played Gaga Ball myself. How violent does it get?
Yeah. It's so I should maybe explain it a little bit better. So what these students here are doing, it's a ball, and they essentially roll the ball, and they're trying to hit other other students, but it's below the waist. So if it's above the waist, then that person is out essentially. But it is it's physical. It's not quite as physical as kickball, but in the chat window here, here, think of Gaga Ball as a gentle version of dodgeball is what.
Ms. Malakara, you've seen it up in the gym. I've invited you up there before when we've played it.
Okay.
Kids
Okay.
love it, but I don't think it's a K4, K5 first. I mean, second grade, possibly, yes, but not for the little ones.
And we know at the district with dodgeball, they're not, so.
Yeah, they're fine, totally fine with Gaga Ball.
Okay, thanks, Barton.
Just while I'm on, can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
I do just have a little concern because with the soccer, and because we only go outside through 5th grade, but when you go from the soccer and basketball, you're talking about maybe 40 kids that would be occupied in those 2 games. I mean, if you had a 10-on-10 soccer game, that would kind of be a lot. The basketball, I don't know how many kids you're going to get there. So at least for the older kids in the back, maybe something that's, and the Gaga Ball, but Gaga Ball will probably only be about 20 people. So how many people do we usually have outside for the older kids? Because I'm thinking, a kickball or possibility is still having, using that for a softball team in the future and stuff like that. But I was just kind of trying to conceptualize how many people are going to be able to play of the amount of kids that are outside.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the first part. How many students are we expecting to be out here during recess? That's a good question.
So each area would kind of be sectioned per class. So like the 2 Gaga Ball rings would be for 1 class, and like the soccer field would be 1 class, basketball 1 class, like Foursquare 1 class, world map area 1 class. The outdoor classroom with the music and stuff would likely be 1 class. And so when we think about those spaces, like how many in the larger areas, like the larger Gaga Ball, rings, I'm calling them, I don't know. How many could fit in each one, would you guys say? I don't know.
So yeah, a dozen to, the larger ones can be up to 20, right? It depends on well, we can say 20. Is that what you?
Oh yeah, so if each of them fit 20, right, and that's designated, both of them are just for 1 class, that should be plenty. So like the soccer field for 1 class, I would say that most of the time, so if a class has like 38 at our highest end, like our higher end of a class when we're back fully in person, but then you factor in, we typically have anywhere from 3 to 8 students that won't participate and will choose to observe or talk to a friend or sit and read a book or draw or something like that. So in terms of like soccer, do you guys feel we could get like 30 to 35 kids in that space? And then would basketball, 2 teams of 15 kids each playing, at a time, would that be feasible within that space?
I think a lot of it comes down to how you program it, like what activities you have going on as well too. So I would be curious to hear what the Phi Ed teacher thinks about that amount of students in those spaces.
I think that's a lot. 30 kids playing basketball would be a little challenging, but there's other games that you can play on that area. I see Mr. Rutledge out there, Miss Walton doing some things out there, so that the space would be manageable. I forgot that we were going to break everything up in terms of one class would be here instead of kids just free flowing from where they wanted to participate at.
Well, and that's what it was last year. We had Miss Ayala had a larger class, but like her class on basketball days would all be in that area.
Yeah.
And even if we didn't section them off, we still kind of have to have an idea, like if a ton of kids were free flowing and all wanted to play basketball, what we want to kind of look at for safety in terms of how many numbers would make sense.
Yeah, you would need to just have an organized game for that many kids in that area. You couldn't just have 30 kids playing basketball together. That could get kind of dangerous.
Yeah. And last question, I know we're coming up on 6 o'clock here. The raised bed gardens, that was a large conversation last time we all got together. Are we liking where this is located right now? Does this seem to make more sense than that the other side on the northwest, where the conversations around not having enough access to water and sunlight? This one here would get a lot of sunlight. It could be a nice buffer between the parking lot and the rest of the schoolyard. I'm just curious about how we feel about raised bed gardens here. Who's doing the most gardening? Does that seem like a good spot right there?
And I don't know. Miss Vaughn, she's one of our gardeners. We had, and you've seen them probably, but the beds in the front. It just seems like that space in the front where the logs and stumps are for reading, that that space is kind of underutilized.
Yeah.
Because that back playground space is very, it's utilized for that activity much of the time, and space for kids to play. And like Mr. Martin just brought up about the number of kids out there at one time and that kind of thing. That would be my only feedback on that. I know that like in the front, I don't know. I mean, anybody here that does more gardening, I mean, they do get that west sun in the front. I don't know if that's enough. That would be my only point in that, I guess.
And then do we need this kind of walkway through here?
Oh, yeah. Buses come in that back, that's 22nd Street.
Yep.
And that's where buses line up. So we do use that entrance.
Great. And so we want this kind of straight path going up through here. That makes good sense. That's
right. Good. I think so. I mean, it makes sense.
Because the other option here, and I know we're running low on time, is to kind of connect this half moon to give a little bit more space in the asphalt here. And then people walk kind of around it.
Well, that wouldn't be bad, I think. I don't know if it would give us more.
I think that the idea was to try to, have a nice walkway. And Kelly, you can correct me too, but also to kind of create a new musical instrument space here to try to further separate all of the different stations that are around. So it's a bit of a compromise. If we feel like we like this, then great, we can keep it where it is, and we kind of have different programming on the other side, either side of that walkway. Alternatively, we can push it together and we have more asphalt play areas.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like the main entrance, like a straight walkway. I think I like a straight path. It's like, that's the way to the bus.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have to go around, it just feels like it gets in the way of your line of sight.
The other feedback I have, and I'm sorry, I won't talk anymore because we probably all want to get going here. But like the musical instrument area, I kind of like that. We have, for the first time in a long time, have a music teacher full-time next year, and she seems amazing. Like I was thinking, could we move like musical instruments towards that front grassy? Of course, that would interfere with the reading going on over there if it was going on at the same time. But maybe using some of that space for like musical instruments in front. Because I know she would probably utilize that possibly if it was, well, I don't know. I'm not sure if that's a playground thing or if that's a music teacher class time thing.
Yeah, maybe next time we get together, we can provide some more visual examples what those musical instruments could be, and then we can take it from there. Awesome. So I know we're over 6 o'clock. So next steps, please don't hesitate to respond further on the idea flip, the Google form. If you feel you'd like to respond that way, that'd be great. And then we'll make the edits based on our feedback today, and we'll get back together next month. Okay.
And
Awesome.
I will be sending out follow-up email that has all of the links, so you guys can pass on to anyone who needs it. If someone registered through Eventbrite, I will email you directly with all of this information, and then you can pass on to anyone else who'd like to provide their feedback.
Well, thank you all so much. This is going to be wonderful. Appreciate getting all of our input, and staff, thank you for all the feedback too.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Night.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
Ms. Malakara, since you're still on, I actually have a video. I went to the park with my son and a friend. I can send you the video of